What's going on, guys? I appreciate you stopping by for some Conference Chatter TV. With the college football season finally set to begin, I am here to talk about some Big 12 conference football. My name is Eric Sorrentino. I work for KUSports.com and the Lawrence Journal-World. Feel free to check out my blog, my Conference Chatter blog at KUSports.com. Now, I figured with the college football season ahead, I'd try something new this year for my Conference Chatter blog. In addition to keeping the blog, I wanted to start this video and predict each game that goes on in the Big 12 for this season. Figure I'd keep a running tally and kind of see how I did. I don't know how this will turn out, but hopefully I'll have some luck with a couple of these picks that I'm making. Let's get right to it. Finally, the college football season is going to resume this week with Iowa State kicking it off in the Big 12 on Thursday. Not the sexiest game to start the season. It's North Dakota State at Iowa State on Thursday, and to start this one in the picks, I'll just go ahead and go with Iowa State. Not much to say here. North Dakota State's a lower level championship subdivision team, so I think with Paul Rhodes, his first game in Ames, he'll have the home crowd ready for it. I don't expect Iowa State to drop this game. Let's move on to some of the more interesting games here. On Saturday, we'll have Baylor at Wake Forest. I was going back and forth between this one. I really think this is a good game. I think this is one of the few games that the Big 12 could lose on week one. I'm going to go with Wake Forest on this one. It's kind of tough. I know Baylor's a new team with Robert Griffin and the amazing things he can do on the field and everything, but I don't know. I mean, Baylor lost 41-13 last season to Wake Forest at home. I know this is a new team with Robert Griffin and everything, but I think it'll be sort of a hostile environment for Baylor to go to Wake Forest. So I'm going to go with Wake on this one and roll the dice there with Wake Forest. Next, it's kind of an interesting game here. We have Georgia at Oklahoma State. I think this is the premier matchup in the Big 12 for week one. You got the powerhouse SEC versus the Big 12, and the SEC hasn't exactly been kind to the Big 12, particularly lately. Of course, you had Florida beating Oklahoma in the BCS championship, and then you had Ole Miss just stomping on Texas Tech at the Cotton Bowl. I didn't see that coming either. So, I don't know. I think the Big 12 gets a little bit of revenge here. I think Oklahoma State at home against Georgia gets it done. We'll see how that one goes, but that'll be a great game. Next, we have Missouri against Illinois in the arch rivalry game in St. Louis. I'm going to go with Missouri in this one. They've won the past 4 times these teams have squared up. They've also won 10 of the past 13. And I'm going to go with Sean Witherspoon, the Missouri linebacker, on this one when he said, "I'm going to squeeze the pulp out of Juice," of course, referring to Illinois quarterback Juice Williams. Certainly, Missouri's pretty confident this year. I feel that a lot of people maybe aren't expecting the Tigers to do much, but I think this could be a pretty scary team. So I'm going to go with Missouri in this one in week one and see what they can do there. Next, we have Louisiana Monroe at Texas. Not much to say here. I think the Longhorns are obviously going to run away with this one. This should not be a problem at all. One thing I am going to kind of look at with Texas is how they divvy up the carries at running back. Vondrell McGee was recently named the starter over Fozzie Whitaker and Cody Johnson, so I want to see kind of how Texas divvies up the carries, because I don't think quarterback Colt McCoy, I don't think this guy wants to lead the team in rushing attempts and yards again. There's too much of a risk for him getting hurt. He needs to be obviously healthy for Texas to make a run at the BCS title, which they have every intent of doing. Next, we have North Dakota at Texas Tech. Again, this should be a runaway by Texas Tech. North Dakota's a championship subdivision, lower-level team as well. I'll be interested to see what Taylor Potts does in his first start for the Red Raiders. It should be pretty interesting, but again, I see Texas Tech running away with this one. They should have no problem with this opener in Lubbock. Next, continuing on the lower championship subdivision level here, we have Massachusetts at K-State. Again, this should be a runaway for the Big 12 here. K-State, of course, the return of Bill Snyder as head coach of the Wildcats. I'm really curious to see how this goes in his first game back at the helm for the Wildcats. One thing to keep an eye on for K-State is who they're going to start at quarterback. It's going to be between Carson Kaufman and Grant Gregory, and I fully expect Kaufman to get the nod to begin with, but it should be interesting to see how K-State divvies those snaps up between the quarterbacks, because Kaufman really hasn't emerged as the clear-cut #1 guy that I thought he would be after the summer. So I'll be tuning in to see how much that he plays. I expect Kaufman to get the majority of the snaps in Week 1. Next, we have a really intriguing game: BYU at Oklahoma in the Jerry Dome in Arlington, Texas. I actually talked to a friend who went to OU, and they were saying that these tickets were going for as much as $90, I think, and that was just for the higher level. I think tickets were going for as much as $150 for the better seats down low. But this should be a good one. This should be a really good one. I'm going to go with OU certainly in this one. It's going to be a good game. BYU's number 20 in the AP poll entering the year, and Oklahoma's number 3. So we got a nice top 25 matchup here in Week 1, something that you don't always see. I just think that Oklahoma has too much firepower. Obviously, Sam Bradford is going to do his thing, but I think the Oklahoma defense is very underrated, led, of course, by Gerald McCoy, the all-world nose tackle over there, defensive tackle, excuse me. And so I think that, I think OU's going to, it should be close for a half, but I think in the end, OU's going to run away with it. I don't know by quite how much, maybe 10 to 20 points. I think OU wins pretty handily, maybe gets a scare a little bit in the first half. Next, we have Florida Atlantic at Nebraska. I fully expect Nebraska to win this game. FAU is a pretty respectable program. They won the Motor City Bowl last year. They finished 7-6, but I'm really curious to see what Nebraska does without Quentin Castile, who got kicked off the program recently. That left a big void at running back. Nebraska had one of the best 1-2 running back punches in the Big 12, but now with no Quentin Castile, I'm really curious to see what Rex Burkhead, of course, from my hometown of Plano, Texas, kind of curious to see what kind of effect Rex Burkhead has on the Nebraska program. He's going to be thrown into the fire very, very early, and we'll see. He's, of course, going to be the number 2 running back, but Quentin Castile is going to have a major impact on this program. I'm very curious to see how Nebraska divvies up the carries, but I fully expect the Huskers to win in Week 1. Let's continue it on here. New Mexico at Texas A&M. This one was scary last year for A&M. They barely won 28-22 last year. This one was on the road for them in Albuquerque. I expect A&M to win this game at home in College Station with a home field advantage. New Mexico was only 4-8 last year. They were 2-6 in the Mountain West. Not a very impressive squad last year. A&M was very, very down last year for A&M. That's about as bad as I've seen them. I don't expect that they'll be that bad this upcoming year. I think they'll be a little bit better, and I think that they'll hold on at home in College Station. Next, we have Northern Colorado at Kansas. This one, I think, could get ugly very fast. Northern Colorado's won 3 games in the past 3 years combined. And so I don't even know how long Todd Reesing is going to play in this game. I don't expect it to be very long, maybe 3 quarters at the max, because this one will be out of hand early, and Kansas should easily win this one and start the season 1-0. That'll take us to the final game of Sunday. We have Colorado State at Colorado. I'm going to go with the Buffs in this one. They've won 5 of the past 7 matchups against Colorado State. This game's always close, though. I was kind of looking at it. It's been decided by 5 points or less 5 of the past 7 years. So this game is always close. This game has been in Denver for some of the past couple years. It's moving back to the campuses this year. This one will be in Boulder. So I expect Colorado to come on top. I'll be very curious to see who they start at quarterback. We still don't know if it's going to be Cody Hawkins or Tyler Hansen. So that should be a pretty interesting quarterback battle, to follow this year, because no starter has emerged, and really I don't know if one guy looks better than the other. I was at media days, and I still couldn't get a grasp this year in media days in Dallas who was going to be the starter. It looks pretty much like it's a complete toss-up at this point. So should see how they do there. So that's 11-1 is my prediction for the Big 12 in Week 1. We'll see how I do. I don't know about Baylor. Maybe they'll surprise me and go up to Wake Forest and win that game. That would be That'd be pretty sweet for the Bears, who are trying to make their first bowl game in several years this year. So, well, I appreciate you guys checking out the first edition of Conference Chatter TV. I'll be back after the games on week 1 to kind of reflect and see how I did in week 1. So thanks so much for checking out the first edition, guys, and I will talk to you again next time.